Okay, we're here with a Team Berserk deck profile here presented by Armando here. So we got this looks like the Xeno Gogeta leader. What tournament did you play this in?
That's correct, Lucas. I played Xeno Gogeta in the most recent PPG Webcam regional this past weekend. It was an 8-round regional. I think there was about 250 people. I ended up going X1 in the tournament. I'm really proud of my performance. I didn't really expect to do that well, but this was a newer build I was testing, and I really, really like it. So I'm just going to talk to you about a little bit about my deck and a little bit about some choices I made. So the leader is actually really, really good. It's Son Goku and Vegeta Xeno. So it has an auto that when you attack, you can draw a card, and after you draw, you have the option to take a life. So it's really interesting. You can draw first, then choose whether or not you want to take your life. That's a really good effect on this kind of leader. It's actually better than cards like Dark Holy. So he's got the best kind of self-awaken skill. His other auto is once per turn when you play a battle card with Union Fusion. So if it gets countered, you don't get the draw, but you get to draw a card if you play a card with Union Fusion. So right off the bat, your leader's a draw 2, even on the front side. Really a draw 3 if you include the life take. So it's really, really, really good. His other neat skill is the Activate Main. Once per turn, you can send up to 5 cards from your deck to your warp. So you can warp one at a time and decide when to stop. There's a ruling. It's on an old Frieza card in the fact, but basically you don't have to declare how many you're sending. You can go one at a time and stop milling when you want to stop milling. On the Awaken side, he's an untap 1, draw 1 at 4 life. Awaken side, he has basically all the same skills. When he draws, or when he attacks, he draws, and then you have the option of warp up to 5 cards. His other auto is the same thing with the Union Fusion. You can draw a card, so you can actually play. You can swing with your leader, or draw, take a life, play a Union Fusion, Awaken, play another Union Fusion, draw, and then he has a second Activate Main that lets you take a life to give 2 of your 1-drops plus 10k for the turn. I think they have to be black. Yeah, 2 black battle cards and a cost of 1, get 10k for the turn. That came up once or twice. It wasn't super relevant. I'm not running a really heavy 1-drop build, but that's Xeno Gogeta. He's really good on the front, still pretty good on the back. It's a 15k. I think he's a super versatile black leader, almost like a mix between Dark Holy and Jax, and you'll definitely see that a bit in my profile. So first card, 4 super combos. We're running the 5k Vegetas because it just has the most synergy with the deck.
Of course.
This was the interesting choice. So these are the mill targets. For the Supreme Kai, her skill is if you don't have a Unison, you can activate main bottom decker and then play one of your Unisons from the warp or your hand. But if you do it from your hand, you're actively negging from hand, so there's no point. You're better off warping a Unison and then doing it. So yeah, she's really good. Excellent card. I normally wanted to keep 2 in the warp at all times if I could. She lets you generate the free advantage with the Unison. My spicy tech is the Mirror Unison. Most decks you'll see with Gogeta Xeno are going to be running the Pycon Unison that gives your 1-drops plus 10k. From my experience, I tested the deck. I found the 1-drops died way too easily. They're 5k 1-cost cards, so like green wipes them, blue can deal with them. Every deck comes equipped to deal with 1 cost. So I was running Mira Dimensional Superpower. He has 2 really cool skills: Activate Main +1, warp a card from your hand, draw a card. You can +1 without doing it, but just no reason not to. It's a free deck cycle, especially when you have dead cards in your hand. You can then filter them to the warp and draw to get more cards. So it's really good. Then his second skill is super synergistic as well. It's a -2. This one's an Activate Battle, so you can actually swing with them first and then choose to do the -2. If it's not negated. And this is like a general mirror skill where he gains plus 5k for every card in your warp. Because I'm usually warping 15 to 20 cards plus whatever he warps off, I think 3 times I swung for game with a mirror that was over 120k. So it's really interesting. I know. People have stopped respecting mirror swings because no one plays the battle card anymore because it's so easy to deal with. So I caught a lot of people with this guy. One of my favorite plays too is I'll have one out. Let's say it's at 2 or 3 markers. Stuff one underneath to bump it to 3, swing, and then neg 2. And then if I have 3, I'll keep my 3 energy up, tap 3 again and play it, and then swing for 2 basically unlimited combo power swings. Really good with Mira, really good with Champa. It's just a really strong game ender. So your opponent is forced to respect this, which in turn takes pressure off your leader and your battle cards. I really liked Mira. I found the cycling from hand was so useful in the deck. I wouldn't run the Pycon. I tried it. It wasn't as good. So I think Mira is the better unison, at least with the way I built the deck. So our last mill target is Unrelenting Assault Trunks. I'm running it at 4 of, because I'm thinking if this is Vegeks, you run 4 of all your mill targets. When he's warped from the top of your deck, you actually add him to your hand. That's an auto he has. When he's sent from the warp from the battle area or deck, he gets added to your hand. So if you mill him off the top 5, it's a free plus. So it's almost like you're drawing an additional card. The other really cool thing is it's a free Overwhelm 15k every turn, and at worst, you can use it to Overwhelm to get some of your targets in the draw. Like if I play a Mira for 1 and my opponent clears it, I can then Overwhelm after he gets cleared and then play another one. I found this had a lot of synergy. I only really, even though I'm running 5 or 6 different Overwhelms, this is one of like the 2 cards I overwhelm the most, because I was probably overwhelming every turn after turn 2.
And so only being 3, that's really easy to get off. You literally do one fusion, you already got 2 things in there, and that's going back to your hand at the end anyway, so it's not like you're negging it at all. Exactly. It's almost like a draw 1. It's actually better, though, because you cycle so much of your deck so fast. Like, decking out is a real issue. I had multiple games where I had 5 or 6 cards left in deck. So him not forcing me to draw is actually really good. I like it a lot. I'm considering going down to 3, but right now I would say 4 is the number, because it's so synergistic with your game. So next we'll have our fusion package. We're running 3 of the blocker Gogeta, 3 of the SR Gogeta, and 3 of Gogeta thwarting the Dark Empire, the expensive TP. So the blocker, my original split was 2 blockers, 4 SRs, because they have barrier, and barrier is awesome. They're also not unique. And then 3 of the Gogeta. Gogeta is unique, and it's really easy to grab him back. So I think he's fine at 3 for the TP. Not saying it's a budget deck, because you're still looking down the barrel of like $300. Yeah. But it's really good. It's almost like a 1-cost Demigra. So in this deck, when you Union Fusion, you pull your Goku and Vegeta from the warp, so it doesn't hurt your hand size. You play him, you draw from your leader, then you swing and you warp one of your opponent's battle cards, and you're swinging with a 25k double strike. So really good turn 1 pressure. This card's actually kind of snapped, because you can play it turn 1 or turn 2 and still leave an energy open. Really, really good. The SR, he's also good. He's a 20k, so a little bit weaker. He's got barrier, though, which is super, super relevant. When he has an activate main for 1 additional black energy, you can bottom deck him and then play 2 1-drops from your warp or draw. So it's a really good way to get more cheap pressure on the board if you need to. And at worst, I used him to refill my deck so I wouldn't deck out. So in a pinch, it's good. And just being a black battle card that's 1 energy that has barrier that also draws you a card, if it's the first fusion you play, really, really snaps. Fearless Fusion. So my original build, I tested this at 2 because I didn't find that removing 4 or less was that relevant. I bumped it to 3 for this tournament just because the ban list wasn't in effect yet. So in my mind, Piccolo Jr. was going to be a threat. Invoker was going to be a threat. And this gave me an answer to both Piccolo Jr. and Piccolo and Invoker. It's the drum, sorry, that's the card I'm thinking of, the barrier blocker. So he can warp that. It's a 1, again, all the fusions are 1 energy.
You draw from your leader when you do it. He warps a battle card 4 less, ignoring barrier, and then he's a 16k blocker. Being 16k was absurdly relevant.
I'm glad you went over that, because that's literally, anytime I face Xeno Gogeta, that 16k, that extra 1k matters. Because you're just like, I really got to combo my Unison just to clear this now. It's just like, you don't want to.
Like, I played against a King Cold, so he would swing with the Unison, and I block. And now he's like, do I want to lose another card from my hand? Or do I just let it fizzle? And almost everybody lets it fizzle. And if they combo on you, then it's like you played a hand control card. It's even better, right? Mm-hmm. Again, he's not unique, which is really, really relevant. So this was my setup. You could go more. You'll see with the text I'm running, this was fine. I didn't have trouble seeing any of them. If they get warped, they're really easy to grab back with the Fusion Goku. So 9 fusions in total. Typically, I was fusing once per turn, except twice on your Awaken turn, and then overwhelming the same turn. So I didn't find it difficult to get cards in the drop, because Gogeta Xeno, I draw 1, put 2 back. Awaken, do the blocker, put 2 back. Now I've already got 4 battle cards in the drop, in addition to whatever I did defensively the turn before or offensively this turn. So that's the fusion package. Then we go fusion targets. So the 1-drops. My spread is a little uneven. This was 2 Vegeta True Fighting Spirit, 1 Vegeta Catastrophic Premonition, but I figured I have kind of a tough blue matchup, specifically SS3, and I expected to see a lot of babies, so I was like, I might as well go for 3 untapped silver bullets. And hilariously, my only loss was to SS3 Goku.
Oh god.
So yeah, I know, it was brutal, and he had the answers. He had the what is it? I think it's called Divine Intervention or Divine. It's Intoxicated by Justice, the one that bottom decks. So I would play this, force him to warp more cards out of his hand. Next turn I would swing with something, and he would just bottom deck them. And the one issue I have with this deck is there's no natural shuffle. So if all your targets get bottom decked, there's no way you're going to see them before the end of the game, which is unfortunate. So I run 5 1-drop Gokus, 4 of the True Fighting Spirit, 1 Catastrophic Premonition. I had Premonition at 2, but he's unique, so you can only play 1. I would probably bump him back to 2 given the opportunity. 4 True Fighting Spirit, Absolute Necessity. It's one of the best cards in the deck. It's one of the only way Black can deal with counter heavy decks, because you tap 1 and now you're taxing your opponent. Against Blue, you play these guys, now you're taxing your opponent like 2 cards a turn on top of all your pressure. And these guys all double as Self-Awakeners. I don't often use that skill because I like to keep my life a little healthier, but really, really good. This guy came in clutch twice, once to clear a Unison and once to pressure for game. Because if your opponent draws with a skill, he gains 10k. So it's super, super relevant. Oh yeah, the reason I'm running 5-3 split is because the super combos we run are also Xeno Gogetas. So it's actually more like I'm running a 5-7. Because to Union Fuse, you have to have the same power level of the card going from the warp to the drop. Now we have my favorite package, my 30k package. So if you don't know, I'm a big Dark Broly player. So I love swinging with 30k battle cards that give me extra effects. This guy was one of my MVPs, the SS4 TP Goku. So he's an Overwhelm 6, pretty easy to get with this deck. And when you overwhelm him, you can grab one of your battle cards, energy cost 3 or less. So you overwhelm him, he can either grab another copy of himself from the warp, he can grab any of your Gogetas, because they're all energy costs of 6. He can grab the Trunks if you need it, and then he can grab some of our tech cards that we'll see in a minute. He's like a pseudo searcher. I love that he grabs from your warp, so again, it's not hurting your deck, which will already be low by turn 4 or 5. definitely a 4 of super relevant card. I loved playing him. I resolved him every time I could because being a big 30k swing that also draws you a card for free, it's just absolutely wacky. The TP Vegeta, kind of the inverse. You play him and your opponent warps a card. It's not terrible. It came up once when my opponent was at like 3 cards in hand, so I just played this to give them some extra hand control, knowing that I could save this for my final swing and they weren't pushing through a 30k. Then we have the rare Vegeta SS4. Again, they're 30k, so these cards all fuse with each other. This is like the Dex version of Secret Identity Mass Saiyan. So you overwhelm for 1 energy. When you attack, you can warp up to 3 energy cost and battle cards from your opponent. This was crazy relevant, actually, on 2 occasions. One, my opponent, I swung. My opponent was King Vegeta. He had a 3-drop Goku on board. I swung, and he negated with testing the opposition. So he played the free blocker. Because the blocker's a token, I could add it to the cost. So I warped his token and his Goku blocker because he didn't want to take the 30k crit swing. So I got a lot of value off of that play.
Yeah, and that works because the text states that it's a total up to 4 cost. I know some people I always see in like the discussion group and stuff are always confused on what can hit tokens and whatnot. That can hit tokens because a total to an energy cost of 4, not 4 or less, because tokens don't have an energy cost. But he can wipe a million tokens with that 1 swing.
And my opponent actually had me call a judge to confirm that he could wipe tokens, because he's like, oh, I don't know if that's one of the ones that wipes tokens or not. And I was like, sure, we'll call him over. I think it does. But yeah. So yeah, the judge did confirm that for us. So that's my 30k fusion package. I love these cards. What's really important to note too is even though you might think, oh, how am I going to get all these guys in the warp? Like, how am I going to fix my ratios? What if I draw into them? The mirror letting you fix your hand. So if I have a 30k Vegeta in the warp but no Goku, in a pinch, I can warp the Goku with Mira, draw a card, and then use the 2 in my warp for a fusion. So even though it looks like you're running a lot of different cards that shouldn't go together, because of the unison, because of the milling 5 with the leader, it's actually really, really consistent. I never found myself struggling to fusion. There was one game I had rough mills. That was the SS3 Bojack, or the SS3 Goku with Bojack engine, obviously, where I couldn't see a Goku. So I had to actually drop, I think it was the 30k from my hand. I didn't even have the mirror unison out. I actually just had to union fuse with the Vegeta from Warp and a Goku from my hand, put them in the draw, and then played the guy. And as much as you think that might not matter, I ended up losing that game by 5k. So if I had just milled one early, played the rest the exact same, I probably still would have had it. Now we're going to go into my tech cards. Defensively, we've got the 2 tag team Gohans. A ton of stuff in this deck turns these guys on. Your Overrealm at the end of the turn, it gets warped. You can play him for free. Your SR Gogeta, when he gets bottom deck to play the 1-drop, so you can play him for free. I would usually sit on these until they were needed. Notably, they won me. Seeing both won my game against Dark Broly. I just sat on them. He warped one of my battle cards. I had 1 life left. He had 1 swing, or 2 swings. So I played 1. And then he played the 30k SR Broly to warp it. And I triggered the second one off of it. Was able to block his last 30k swing, and then he couldn't push me for game, so I won on the clapback. So that was a tough matchup, though. My extra card package, 2 Super Kamehameha. You need these. You need counter plays in the deck to stop floodgates like Topo or Poutine or the Gohan baby. You need to run at least some of these. Your leader self-awakened, so it's really easy to turn this on for free. I was usually paying energy for it, because again, I don't want to take my life too low. I like staying healthy. I won most of my games on 4 life, actually, which is really interesting. But Power Burst, I've run 3 copies. I wanted to run this at 4, but I'm already running a lot of negates, and because it's best of 1 format, there's not a lot of tech room. The other thing is, because I'm overwhelming every turn, I usually don't have sparking that often, so more often than not, I'm paying the 1 to negate with this. Petrification and Supreme Kai, I waffled on which one of these I was going to run. First, I was running 2 Kai because you can search it with the SS4 Goku. Then I was running 2 Petrification because if I play against Android 18 Mill, this can win that matchup, whereas this makes me die. So I settled on just one of these because it wins so many different matchups for me. Even against King Vegeta, you can Petrify, choose the SS Blue Vegeta, the one that negs everything 10 when it's played and when it attacks. So now that Vegeta can't activate skills, so you can warp it without worry, you can play battle cards to swing without worry. So I'm tempted to say Petrification should be at 2, but the Kai being able to warp a relevant battle card is just so important. I ended up running 1 of each. I might continue to run 1 of each. I am leaning more towards 2 Petrifications, but the Kai not needing to discard an extra card from your hand makes this negate super, super relevant and super good. In best of 3, I would definitely side deck. I would main deck 2 copies of one and side deck 2 copies of the other. Last 3 cards, like the secret rares, Furthering Destruction Champa, toss that on Mira, win the game, toss that on your leader swing, win the game because you have so much combo power. Massey and Brainwashed never came up. I don't even think I overwhelmed him, but good to have to inversely, if your opponent all-in double strikes you, or triple strikes you, you can combo Massey or activate Battle Massey and crit a life. It was important for me to run at least one of these because Sin Shenron's still running around at full power, Mecha Frieza was still running around at full power, so I wanted to have a game plan. And what I love too is if I do my leader, I can just grab it back even though it's a one-of, so it's always live in my hand. Secret rare, I'm running Heroine's Lineage. I just think I've flipped around to thinking this is probably one of the best generic secret rares in the game. I almost like it more than Kai for the purpose of it's 1 energy instead of 2, and it's not vulnerable. It's not as vulnerable to answers. So if my opponent has something that stops me from playing battle cards and skills for the turn, like the Vegito Unison, this is still live in my hand. It's really good. What I like is it's a tempo card. I can play it pretty early in the game and just change the tempo of the game up. Whereas Kai is almost, I feel, a win more. Like, it's great for unison clearing, but this deck runs a lot of native double strike. It has a lot of native pressure that I never worried about clearing unisons. So I think Heroine's Lineage, it saved me a couple games, but even the games it didn't save me, like against King Vegeta, being able to steal a Super Saiyan Blue Vegeta and force them to crit, because you're now the master of the skill, is just such a really good card. So if you don't have this, pick this up. This is one of the best generic secret rares in the game. I've flipped around to liking it more than Kai because you get full value for 1 energy off of it. And yeah, that's all the deck. It's 53 cards. A lot of one-ofs at the end, but they're all situationally really good. You could probably swap Supreme Kai for another Petrification or vice versa, depending on your preference. Cards that I wish I would have teched in are Belmod, the green Belmod, as a 2-of, because some decks where they stall out your Gogeta thwarting, I just really wished I had a way to remove Gogeta thwarting myself so I could play another one and get more pressure. And Belmod would have let me pop 3 cards, send them to the draw. That would fuel more Overwhelm for me, and then I could drop another one of these. So yeah, that would have been really nice if I had the 2 Belmods, but I honestly don't know what room I would have made for them. An extra Goku Catastrophic Premonition would probably be it. Yeah, that's the deck.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, and that took you to what place did you end up getting in that regional?
Probably should have explained that. So yeah, I went X1, so 7 wins, 1 loss. I ended up placing 5th. Of course, I bubbled. That's like the 3rd time I've gotten 5th in an online regional this year. Unfortunate, but that's the way she goes. If you want to read more about my matchups or more detailed notes about my deck, I have a blog, Border City Ballers. I'll link the blog article to this video, so you can read about my deck, and I'll have the deck list in full up there, so you can see it on DBS Deck Planet.
Perfect. Awesome deck profile.
Thanks for having me. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you ever have questions, you can shoot me a message on Facebook, shoot us a message on my YouTube videos, leave a comment. We'll get back to you.